The Eagles draft Makai Lemon on night one of the NFL draft, Fran, and they now enter day 2 with 3 picks. Number 54 overall in the second round, and then 68 and 98 in the third round. Now, they don't have any fourth-round picks after the move up to get Lemon, so they may do some trading down tomorrow. But what do you think, after adding Lemon, are the positions they're going to try to prioritize on day 2?
Yeah, I think in some way, shape, or form, you're looking edge rusher, offensive line, and the tight end position. Those are the 3 positions that I've got earmarked. I would say safety is a possibility as well. But I think at the end of the day, you want to be able to fortify both lines of scrimmage and maybe add a defensive back into the fold.
Now, the Jonathan Greenard possibility is floating out there, and I think that would probably take them out of the edge market in the draft on day 2. We don't know what the compensation would be there. Let's hold that to the side. Let's pretend as if that's not going to happen. Edge-wise, that's probably where the second round guys might be deepest here. You're talking about players like R. Mason Thomas from Oklahoma, Dennis-Sutton. TJ Parker is still on the board from Clemson, who you're very high on. Gabe Akis, Zion Young, Cassius Howell. Feels like one of those guys would be available there. Who screams Vic Fangio, Howie Roseman type the most of that group?
To me, when I'm looking at it, I would say that tonight Dennis-Sutton, Gabe Akis from Illinois, both guys, from the Big Ten, longtime starters, have played a ton of football. Equal parts run defender and pass rusher. Guys have different levels of production. I think that Dennis-Sutton has a little bit higher athletic upside. There's probably a little bit more ruggedness to the way that Gabe Akis plays, but I think both of them are pretty Vic Fangio coded, and that I think they check a lot of the boxes that we've seen from pass rushers that have fit for Fangio, but then also Howie Roseman draft picks. Both guys went to the Senior Bowl, long track records of success. They have the toughness element that Nick Sirianni covets as well. So I think at the end of the day, those are the 2 that stand out most to me in that way.
Offensive line. Now, tackles are in the second round. It's not historically a good hit rate, but there are some guys who could be available there. They could also take a swing on an interior offensive lineman, given the uncertainty about Leonard Dickerson's future, Tyler Steen being in the final year of his rookie deal. The interior guys, Chase Bisontis, you like quite a bit. He may not last that long, but he's a player they brought in for a pre-draft visit, so there's some connectivity there. You could consider them potentially moving up for him. Caleb Tiernan, the tackle from Northwestern. And then there's kind of a drop-off after that. Markel Bell, Jalen Farmer, the guard from Kentucky, Emmanuel Pregnon, who's an older prospect from Oregon. How do you see that playing out? Yeah,
I think Bisontis and Pregnon are going to be in the mix there, the early stages of round 2. I think by the time you get into the third round is when you start having the conversation about some of those tackles. I do think that Tiernan is probably a round 2 player. If he's on the board for the Eagles, I think that he would make some sense. That's a guy that, honestly, watching him, I said, he looks like a guy that the Packers would draft in like the second or third round, and he'd become a starter for years. And now with that Packers lineage here with this Eagles coaching staff, maybe they might see some things similarly. But I think when you look at a couple of those guys, Markel Bell, I'm really intrigued with. I think he's probably more of a third-round pick. Travis Burke, probably more of a third-round pick. One of the players I compared Travis Burke to is actually like a more physical, probably a more athletic Matt Pryor, but just a big, physically imposing offensive lineman with 4-position flexibility. Like I said, I think a better version of Pryor, but a similar archetype of player, just an upscaled version.
Let's hold tight end for a second and talk about the secondary. 2 guys who stand out as like very high on the board and may not make it to the Eagles, but if they did, or maybe they would attempt a move up. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. Obviously, they're going to know about him. We've given Quinyon Mitchell and the connectivity, the safety from Toledo. And then Avieon Terrell from Clemson. Do you think there's a chance either of those guys is attractive enough to the Eagles to precipitate a move up?
It's a good question. I wonder if they viewed Emmanuel McNeil-Warren that way. And my sense is that there are a lot of teams out there that are going to be interested in the MW. So he would be a guy I'd imagine is off the board pretty early here by the time we get to the second round. And so I think he probably won't be in range. Avieon Terrell, I kind of feel the same about. This is a guy that, to me, he was my top corner in this draft. When you factor everything in, I know he didn't have the best pre-draft process because he didn't run well, but was dealing with a hamstring injury. To me, I look at the body of work over the course of his 3-year career, and I see an NFL starter.
Eagles brought in Traden Stukes for a pre-draft visit, the versatile defensive back from Arizona. What do you think about him?
Yeah, a really interesting player because he began his career as a walk-on corner. It was a triple jump, like an outstanding track athlete that was lightly recruited to play football. So he walked on at Arizona, became a captain by his 3rd year, moved into the slot, he had a knee injury in 2024, missed the whole season. So 6th-year senior, former walk-on, 2-time captain, great intangibles, the ability to play outside corner, then moved into the nickel and played as a big slot. I saw him as a safety, and I think most teams view him as a safety, but because of that flexibility, there are a lot of teams that are really interested, especially because of the high character. So my guess is he's probably going to be one of the first players off the board. A lot of steam. Everybody was talking about trading Stukes over the course of the last, we'll say 3-4 weeks.
LSU safety A.J. Halsey, potentially a possibility. Malik Muhammad, the corner from Texas. And then two guys who I feel like even if the Eagles don't want to draft a corner, they could just have them as the top guy on their board. Jermon McCoy, who if the injury just pushes him down that far, do the Eagles take a risk? And then your boy. Could the Eagles think about doing a little D'Angelo Pons dance? Because that would be a lot of fun.
D'Angelo Pons is one of the smallest. I mean, he's the smallest corner.
Tiny, itty bitty.
Yes, extremely small, but 3-year player.
And he will bite your face off.
He is so physical and competitive. Phenomenal instincts, phenomenal ball skills, great feel in zone coverage. He's an awesome player. Top 25, top 30 player for me in this class. I get why he falls to the second round because of the size, but honestly, going through a number of those DBs, I mean, Jermon McCoy is a top 20 talent. You look at A.J. Halsey, consistently productive to me, looks like an NFL starter at safety. I think when you look at Malik Muhammad, he is a player I think would be a really good fit in a Vic Fangio defense. This is a guy that I thought would be a second-round pick because I didn't expect him to run well. Now, he ran better than a lot of people expected, just like Trayton Stukes did. But I think at the end of the day, the teams had questions about the play speed, and that's why they fall to this part of the draft.
I think there's a possibility in round 2. The Eagles would like it to be a line of scrimmage player, and they find themselves on the board, and there's just somebody from the secondary sticking out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, it's very possible. I think with some of the depth, some of the pieces we've talked about already, it can be easy to kind of paint that picture.
Last thing is tight end. We expect the Eagles to address this position probably on day 2, unless they sort of trade out altogether. Of the guys like Oscar Delp and Justin Jolie, Sam Roush, Max Clare, even Eli Stowers, who do you think screams Eagles to you the most?
I think Oscar Delp probably screams Eagles the most. I think, and look, they won't be alone in this. I think that Oscar Delp is going to be one of the more coveted tight ends in this class. This is a guy with a legitimate dual threat capability as both a blocker and pass catcher. Not overly productive, but all the athletic traits. This is a guy that's got the ability to create with the ball in his hands. He can be effective down the seam. He does a really good job at the catch point. The route running is solid, and you can still work with that. So to me, like I look at Delp as a guy that can be a high-end starter. And you like the floor as well. So to me, Delp is the guy I'd circle.
All right, there you go. There's your rundown of players to watch for the Eagles on day 2 of the NFL Draft. We'll have you covered live throughout the second and third round on PHLY. For All City's NFL Draft expert, Fran Duffy, I'm Bo Wolf. Let us know who you want the Eagles to draft in the comments below. We'll see you later.